Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, Chapter 149. When we last left our heroes, Shiki made it to the entrance of the tunnel, and then back in space, Eraser and Oasis were kind of hit a wall when the Empire summoned 10,000 reinforcements. And just when all hope seemed lost, Justice arrived with his own personal fleet to wreak havoc on the Empire. We saw him use Grand Chariot. Lots of questions as to how he will react when he realizes the crew of Edens are kind of allied with Eraser, which kind of, through some linking, puts Elsie allied with Eraser. But we'll see if anything really comes of that. Anyway, back in the tunnels, the bots try to put up an offensive against Nasseh under the idea that his hypnosis does not work on bots. That does not quite turn out to be true, as it apparently just takes him a little longer. But Pino is able to use her EMP to cancel out the hypnosis for a little while. But then Nasseh's hypnosis comes back, and he first thing hypnotizes all three of the bots, leaving just Weisz and Rebecca to deal with him. And I have no idea how they're going to do that. So yeah, let's jump right on into Chapter 149, Powers Lost. And our picture here is of Rebecca just kind of lounging in her room. She like stuffed animals around her. It's a picture. Anyway, we open where we left off. I do want to kind of linger on Powers Lost. Is that going to relate to defeating Nasseh? Is it going to relate to... I don't know. I don't know what that could relate to. But anyway, we open with Weisz and Rebecca kind of staring down Nasseh, kind of hopeless. Pino is still kind of scratching at the ground as a mole. Mole. Excuse me. Happy is bouncing around as a pigeon. Kookaroo. And Moscow is still a party girl. This is seriously like the worst. And Nasseh stares down one of Rebecca and or Weisz. For you, a suggestion that will guide you to your deaths. And Weisz I think it's both of them, as deaths plural. Anyway, Weisz thinks there's no way an Ether Gear would actually give him whatever he says he wants. There has to be some catch, some rule to make the hypnosis work. And he clutches at his watch, which I think is where the what's it called? The assault armor comes from. Right? Is that the name of his superhero form? But then he thinks, no, wait, maybe it's not really hypnosis. Because I think Pino implied there was a way. There was something he's doing that they can counter. But just then, Nasseh says, now die. And both Rebecca and Weisz, come under his spell and start clawing at their throats. And Rebecca, who's still kind of conscious, I can't stop myself, but I like it. Okay, is that another kinky sex thing that Mashima's gotten into since Fairy Tail? Or is that he's hypnotizing them to want to kill themselves, and she likes actually dying? The way Rebecca's framed, it seemed like it could be kind of a BDSM thing. Weisz very much not so. As, like, there's nothing really sexy about that pose. I want to die. I want to die. Also, he explicitly wants to die and not be choked. So I'm guessing it's more of a generic wanting to die hypnosis. And he laughs, ha 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 ha. And they both kind of slump to their knees as Nasseh grins. Rebecca, I'm killing myself. And Weisz also, and I'm killing myself. And they're both drooling there. As like, I don't know if I should take anything out of that. But they're both just kind of, also the seems more like a sexual moan for Rebecca, whereas Weisz sort of, anyway, just then Lyra shows up and just tells Nasseh, stop. And Nasseh looks back at her, shocked, and Nasseh looks at her, Lyra, let me have the girl. And Nasseh just sort of confused there. Excuse me? And Lyra walks up to him. The show is about to begin. And Nasseh is kind of almost seeming like tired of her. In the middle of a war. Yep. She kind of, again, the way Rebecca is framed in this panel looks distinctly sexual in a way that Weisz does not. Not a big fan of that decision. Doesn't need to be. Especially like, and I was about to say because Rebecca is blushing and Weisz isn't, but they are both blushing there. Which seems kind of, like, I feel like if you're choking yourself, the blood wouldn't go to your face, so you couldn't blush. But whatever. Anyway, Lyra kind of puts her arm around Rebecca. These are exactly the times we need to give the people something to lift their spirits. And besides, look at her. She'd be perfect in a show. Okay. I'm a little bit nervous what kind of show she's talking about here. But Nasseh just sort of looks at her, and Lyra continues, "Don't look at me like that. You can do whatever you want with the rest of them. I only want her. Please." And Nasseh snaps his fingers. "Fine, if you insist." And Rebecca comes to, as Nasseh re-hypnotizes her. "You are a loyal dog. Your master is Lyra. You do everything Lyra tells you." And Rebecca gets on all fours and barks. Which, again, given everything in Rebecca's framing the past few pages, I can't help but read as somewhat sexual in an uncomfortable way. It's really some of Eden Zero's worst instincts coming back, in a way I'm just not really a fan of. But Lyra tells her, "Don't worry. I'll wake you up when we get to the venue. Come with me." And Rebecca crawls after her. "Arf!" And Nasseh just sort of mocks, "The things I do for you." And Lyra looks back at him and grins. "We all need to have fun." And Nasseh watches the two of them leave and turns back to Weisz. "Have fun. Right." And we see Weisz is now collapsed on the ground. He doesn't even have the strength to kneel. Barely letting out an ugh. And Nasseh looks at him, "But it looks like my fun is almost over." But just then, the watch that Weisz activated, or kind of messed with earlier, set up complete. And yeah, it's time for the Arsenal suit. I think I might have called it, did I call it the assault suit earlier? I'm pretty sure it's Arsenal, if I got that right. But yeah, it starts to activate. And there we go, my boy is back. Arsenal Mark II, Requip. And Nasseh kind of stares at him. What did you do?" And Weisz looks at him. "Whew, just in the nick of time." "The nick of time?" And Weisz stands up. "The thing you claim is hypnosis is really just electrical signals. The fact that it works on bots is what tipped me off. In other words, it's a reverse ether gear that forcibly reconfigures another person's ether." Which kind of jives with what Lyra was saying about the oceans are ether gear users whose ether gear can turn black into white and white into black. That feels like a reverse, right? So yeah, it's kind of a callback to that. And then Nasseh kind of concedes, "Fine, but how are you acting like your normal self?" And Weisz tells him, "Once you know it's electrical signals, it's not hard to block it. Like with this suit, for example." "Yeah, but you were under my hypnosis the whole time." And Weisz looks at him and grins. "Yeah, I'm sure I was. But this little guy has a timer function." And Weisz is like ready to go. I haven't really commented on the Mark II outfit. It has this cloak behind it that I really love. I figured you would hypnotize me again, so I set it to Requip automatically. None of your hypnotic suggestions will work on me now. And Moscow kind of blushes. "Really? That was super mossy." And Weisz just, "Yeah, I'm gonna fix you real soon." And then we see Pino still being a mole, Happy still being a pigeon, and then he looks around. Now that he's suddenly conscious, where's Rebecca? And Happy and Pino can't really speak because they don't see themselves as anything but animals. And Moscow is just, "OMG, IDK." But Nasseh tells him, "I took her away while you were under my hypnotic spell." And Weisz looks back at him, "You son of a..." And just then a hole opens in the ceiling. "So you have a mechanical suit. Interesting." And I think another mechanical suit comes down for Nasseh. Excuse me. I need to have my fun too." And the armor kind of comes down around him. And yeah, he's now in a pretty large, like, kind of looks like the Hulkbuster from Marvel movies. Um, and Wise looks at him. What? You have a suit too? And Nasseh just kind of snarkily responds, "I'm a big fan of this sort of thing." And Nasseh's suit just lunges for Wise, rocket powered, grabs him in one hand. Whoa! And takes Wise up through the ceiling onto the surface of the city. Wise, he kind of throws Wise, and Wise like collects himself and lands on a rooftop. And now I present to you the Empire's latest model of mechanical suit. Behold the power of the Sea Devil. Maybe Wise can Wise can still use Machina Maker through Arsenal, right? Because if so, fighting a giant robot is exactly in Wise's strong suit. But anyway, now we're back with Lyra and Rebecca at this show or whatever. As Lyra turns to Rebecca, still on all fours. "Here's your dressing room. Take off those clothes." Okay, like I said, Rebecca's frustratingly sexualized treatment this chapter is not my favorite. And Rebecca complains, "Arf," but we see all these like dresses on the coat rack. "Don't worry, I'm the only one here, and I'm not gonna do anything weird to you." And Rebecca just strips. Now, could you change into that outfit? And we get like a full view of Rebecca's ass crack. It's more than a little uncomfortable. And then Lyra tells her, "Then I'll undo that hypnosis for you. Our adorably brutal show is about to begin." And then Rebecca kind of, passes out, which seems to shock Lyra. And then Lyra collects her before she got dressed, interestingly. And like that seemed like a weird continuity thing. Oh my. Maybe the hypnosis was a little too effective. But now what? I guess I'll change her clothes and see if I can snap her out of it. And then Lyra notes her legs. What beautiful legs. I feel like Leaper is right about to activate, but all in all, this chapter makes me more than a little uncomfortable. And then we cut to what might be a dream sequence. As Rebecca wakes up in bed, sits up, dressed. Huh? Where am I? And someone walks in. Rebecca? And Rebecca looks at him, and it's an older Shiki. Hold on. Something just occurred to me. Because Shiki says good morning. I kind of looked at a couple of panels later out of the corner of my eye. I'll get to that in a little bit, but when she first changed to World 30 in the Belial Gore arc, she had some kind of future vision, right? I forget what the exact details of that vision were, but wasn't there like an older Shiki who like, I don't remember. There was a battle, I think, and it might have been in the future. Anyway, the older Shiki we see has a like distinct scar on his cheek. And Rebecca looks at him. "Shiki, huh? Are you older?" And Shiki doesn't really acknowledge it. "I'm so glad you're awake." And Rebecca thinks, "Wait, I feel like I've had this dream before." And Shiki calls back, "Master, Rebecca's awake." And someone walks in. For some reason, his face reminds me of a racer. His hair doesn't, but his face kind of does. Master Noah! Oh, it's Noah! It's an older Noah with much longer hair. And Noah looks at her. "I see. You are not the Rebecca from our time." Okay, so this Noah in this, like, splinter timeline is aware of what's going on with Rebecca. What? Both Shiki and Rebecca ask, and Noah continues, "You have nothing to worry about. I suspect you made an unconscious time leap. It should be momentary. You'll be able to return to your own time, too, soon." And Rebecca, this is the time you ask what happens in the past. Figure out how you win this fight. But Rebecca asks, "Does that mean I'm in the future? How?" "Strictly speaking, this is one of many futures that branched out from your time. But you did specifically come to this time, and there may be some significance in that." Okay. So there's something specific about this time. And Shiki asks, "So Rebecca hasn't really woken up?" "Woken up?" And Noah explains, "Our world's Rebecca is in a coma. And she can't use Cat Leaper because she's lost her legs. We see Rebecca has 2 mechanical legs. The worst possible future." And given that that is tied into Um, like, the last thing we see of our time is Lyra looking at Rebecca's legs. That future could be sooner rather than later. Maybe. Anyway, let's look at this chapter. My problems with it are, I think, the same problems Eden Zero has given me for a long time, and that the show has like largely been kind of avoiding. And that is its kinky BDSM fetish. It's annoying and it doesn't really advance anything, and it's just kind of uncomfortable. And I mean, look at the way between the ways Rebecca and Weisz are kind of characterized while they're choking themselves. Like, Weisz, there's a bit of, like, Rebecca looks sexualized in a super uncomfortable way. Whereas Weisz is just sort of, he looks more like he's dying and not like there's anything sexy going on. And then we have Rebecca as a dog, and then Rebecca naked, and then Lyra admiring her legs while she's naked. So all in all, the present day Rebecca scenes just did not work for me on really any level. But let's talk about what did work, which is Weisz. I do love Weisz. Just on top of him, he's just a great character. The way he kind of works out in those short little moments at the beginning of the chapter and the end of last one. I mean, we see very briefly on page 3, he just kind of, goes ahead and touches the Arsenal watch. The one thing I don't really get is, like, he says he did it, like, time activated, but I don't really get why. Like, he didn't gain anything from that. He risked his life for it. It feels, when I look at it, like a plot contrivance, like Mashima wanted Weisz out of the picture long enough that Lyra could come in and take Rebecca, and either, so Rebecca can fight Lyra, or so that we can get this time fragment storyline going. Both of which are kind of important things, giving Rebecca her enemy of the arc, and whatever big reveal future Noah and Shiki are going to reveal about Rebecca's legs and how that has to do with the present. But the discomfort of the real world section of all of Rebecca's story this week kind of is a huge strike down for me. Along with kind of the contrivance it takes to get there, to get to the good parts of Rebecca's storyline. Though, see, I kind of said earlier, I love the Arsenal Mark II. It just has all the coolness of the base Arsenal on top of a cool cloak. I love me some cloaks. We need more cloaks in the world. Yeah, it's good, and I'm looking forward to a really fun Weisz fight, as just kind of as a mecha battle. Like, that's some good shit. That is some good shit right there. Admittedly, Arsenal isn't much of a mech. It's more of like an armored suit. But the Sea Devil is pretty mech-like. And then there's that future vision, which is very interesting. I'll have to look back at the initial World 30 chapter to sort of look at Rebecca's vision again, because it's been a while. I was about to see if I could find it real fast, but that would take way too much time to kind of track down. I'm not gonna make y'all sit through that. But yeah, so we see a few things about the future, which is that something will happen to Scar Shiki, which is not super important, but that also he gets some kind of a relationship with Noah in this particular branch timeline. That he sees Noah as, his master, which might just be he's technically a member of the guild, so he's his guild master. But the series has made a big point of guilds aren't really that big a deal in this world. It's not it's explicitly not like Fairy Tail. So maybe at some point Shiki trains with Noah somehow. I don't know why. I don't know what skills Noah has that Shiki would learn from, but it's definitely something to think about. And as Noah points out, there is some significance in Rebecca explicitly coming to this timeline, where she has lost her legs. And especially with Lyra ending the chapter kind of admiring Rebecca's legs, who knows what will happen in a second when Rebecca wakes up. And that's one of those I just got no idea. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But for now, yeah, this was a chapter of highs and lows. The highs were high, the lows were lows. So in the end, it's kind of a mixed bag. Hopefully, with all of the hypnosis done. Rebecca can find some clothes really fast for her real world fight with Lyra. The Weisz versus Nasseh fight will be fun now that it's sort of a knockdown drag out brawl. And we'll get some interesting plot foreshadowing going in this time fragment. So yeah, I'm kind of cold on this week's chapter, but all the things that made me cold on this week's chapter are kind of over. So hopefully next week will just be better. So yeah, that's all I gotta say for this week's video. Hope y'all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!